We're going to introduce Boardwalktech's latest product, the Network of Words, and how it's used to digitally transform multi-party sales and operation execution applications in the supply chain space. Let's start with a quick overview about Boardwalktech. We've been building supply chain ecosystems for the last 15 years for companies such as Levi's, Coca-Cola, and Mars. And our focus is being a technology center of excellence in the patented enterprise digital ledger technology space. Now, you may have heard of digital ledger technology in the context of blockchain, but we actually predated blockchain by a number of years. And the technology is focused on managing data over time and providing full provenance of the information, and also managing data at the lowest resolution, what we call the resolution of business. And we built a number of applications for different companies, especially in the CPG space, for order management, trade promotion, pricing, and many different applications. And what we focused on traditionally is always the area of enterprise visibility and alignment. Because if you think about it, having rapid collaboration across multiple parties is essential to be able to understand where your business is going and making sure you're constantly aligned. But we also found that a lot of companies are struggling with how do you work with unstructured data. We've been working with structured data for 15 years, and now Network of Words gives us the capability to work with unstructured data so that you can see the connection between the information that's touching everybody's business from concept to consumer. And we think this is very important going forward because if you think about what your customers are asking for, they're asking for much richer information around a product story, around transparency, around sustainability. Well, the only way you can do that is if you're able to bring information into your ecosystem and present that to the users. And you need to be able to do that working across multiple parties, especially multiple parties with disparate data. And what we see really as you think about the multi-party global supply chain is that there's a lot of information that's contained in Excel files and your supply chain systems and your emails and POS data. And every one of these people that are touching this data are creating what we call information ripples. And these information ripples are created by these documents that are a result of strategy, planning, execution, and market conditions where somebody sends an email and says, oh, this order is going to be late. Or there's a post on a website that talks about conditions in a port that says every ship that's in the port's being slowed down. Well, how do you get all that information and how do you bring it into the business? And so what we say, a way to do this or a way to run your business is to amplify the useful ripples and suppress the disruptive ripples. So we like to think of it in this way where you say, how do you detect this information? How do you measure the impact of that? Then how do you mitigate it through collaboration with all the different parties? How do you monitor that over time? And then how do you use this time-based data in order to predict outcomes? So you're no longer reacting to everything, but you're actually predicting things. Now, for most companies, when they're working with unstructured data, the only solution they've had in the past is to try and convert everything into SQL. All the emails, the PDFs, the EDIs, all the different things. And there's a high cost of transformation trying to get all of this inside of a SQL environment so then it can write queries against that in order to present this information to the enterprise. Well, it costs a lot of money. You lose information because there's things that are on PDFs or in EDI feeds or in emails that don't necessarily get translated or don't have a place to go. And you're constantly chasing the data. You simply cannot leverage this type of a data environment in order to be able to cover all the information and all the events that you need to be able to track. So what we've done is we've leveraged the Boardwalk Digital Ledger and its capabilities for being able to manage data at the resolution of business, or in the context of the example you see here, at a cell. And this is a time-based transaction-chained data management technology. It mirrors the existing data models. So whether it's a spreadsheet or an email or a blog post or a PDF, we take that information in directly, and then we break it into these granular data elements, and we manage this information over time. And then as the information changes, we're automatically tracking all the versions of the data. So you can see here, as that number changes from 231 to 242, everything that's in the ledger is append only. And without having to do any logging or something like that, you're able to tell the full provenance and have immutability across all of this information. And now we've taken this and we've extended it to the world of unstructured data, because really in the enterprise, if you listen to things like Gartner, they talk about 80% of the information in the enterprise is unstructured. And that's things like emails and websites and blog posts. Structured data is rows and columns of information that comes out of your ERP or your CRM system. But unstructured information has a lot of other data in it. And what we're saying with the network of words is that if you consider your supply chain and the information you work with, there's actually a finite number of words that make up the business or your business. And let's say it's 1,000 words. Maybe it's 500 words. And what we've done with the network of words is we've given you the ability to curate and catalog this information and say, what are the unique words that I'm working with or that used to describe my business? And whether it comes from structured data or whether it comes from unstructured data, go through a curation process where you can say, here's the cataloging or the logic behind how I may relate this data, but then put it in the digital ledger and understand the position of it, because this is also a value where you can look at information in the ledger over time and say, oh, if there's information about quantity and price, then there should be something that says, well, what's the total cost for this? And we store this information in the ledger, and then we keep track of it over time. And this is really important because then you're able to correlate this information and see, how exactly is this changing and how does it relate to each other? So if you look at it in the context of how we present it, it's like a control tower. And on the left, you see here the information that's associated with the data. And on the right, you can understand how it's changed over time. So the network of words is a new method to search, organize, and dynamically use structured and unstructured data by time without needing to create a SQL database. So let's take a look at what this might look like. And here are the problems that you may want to solve. Here's a serial number, for example, but where is this serial number today? Where was it ordered? When was it received in the warehouse? How long did it sit in the warehouse and what warehouse? Well, these are the questions that the business users are asking, but then if somebody has to go write all this SQL code in order to understand this or present this information to the business, they're going to be chasing that information forever. So instead, what we're able to do is we're able to use the network of words to go in and say, well, show me where this information is across my entire network. So I've just taken that serial number and I've said ripple that. And as you look on the left here, this is some structure where you're able to curate the information and say, for my company, who are the different people that I'm working with? Is it FedEx? Is it CM Tectron? Is it logistics? And then when I ripple this, it goes and says, well, where do I find this information? I can say, oh, well, it's at Arvado, it's at CM, and there's an ASN, which is an advanced shipment notice, and there's information in the warehouse inventory. So if I click on this, I can say, well, show me that information. And it goes and looks in the ERP and it says, well, what is the information specific to that? Or I can go in and say, you know what, show me this information over time. And in this case, now I can see, here's this advanced shipment notice and when it exactly brought in. And I can come in and I can say, well, let me take a look at this. So without any transformation, we're able to go in and take this information, mine the information out of this, and then put it in the network of words, and then give you the ability to find this information, and then go through and correlate it. So let's say, for example, now I want to go back and say, well, let's look at the intersection of both this serial number and the purchase order. So I can say, well, where has this been actually shipped for this particular customer that I have a purchase order for? And in all the other systems, you have to take all of this data and create a SQL environment in order to work with it. In the case of the network of words, we're simply taking the information as is, bringing it inside the digital ledger, and then presenting it inside the network of words, and also showing how the information's changed over time. So now you can see, here's the data that came in, when did it come in, and I can go in and say, well, let's take a look at when I got the advanced shipment notice and when did it actually ship? Oh, it was 24 days. So without having to do all this coding, you're able to get access to this unstructured data and line it up with your structured data, which provides some very powerful capabilities for the business. And let's see, what this could look like. So take it a little bit further and say, well, I'd like to provide more information about what my ripples are that I've saved, who are the different people I work with. Maybe take a look at different elements and say, how much has been put in this particular warehouse or how much has been shipped across. So it really gives you a bird's eye view of the supply chain network to ensure that all the parties are moving together and performing as expected. And this just tells you the information, where it is and where the relationships are. But since the data changes over time, you're able to take it one step further and say, well, help me understand how this has changed. So for example, Best Buy already orders on a Monday, but Monday's gone by and they haven't ordered this month. Or the quality yield for this contract manufacturer is improved by 10%. Now you have the ability to use a control tower and the network of words to become reactive rather than predictive. So you're able to detect, assess the impact, mitigate, monitor, and react to the information, or excuse me, predict the information in the supply chain. What does this mean for the business? Well, cycle times come down, productivity goes up, forecast accuracy improves, inventory is reduced, but really the key for this is that the time to insight is much shorter. You're able to understand what's going on, and because you're able to understand sooner, you're able to provide or action on that and set up a collaboration and mitigate and say, hey, what's going on? I see this information. Let's have this actionable visibility against the data. And leveraging this gives you, for our customers, a 30 to 50x ROI across large enterprise supply chain systems. So that's the introduction to network words, and thank you for watching.